your own control. Politicians and celebrities make deals behind closed doors, promises broken, and their income source. Hidden agendas run the grand parade. In the circus, choose a masquerade. Believe me, I wouldn't lie. I've been given money, power, and fame to keep you in line.
Welcome, everyone. Today I am doing a quick, well, maybe not quick. We'll see how long it takes. I'm doing a solo. Why am I round? I don't even know how this works anymore. Anyways, I am doing a solo stream today. We're going to be talking about the hero's journey versus the heroine's journey, which is like the female hero's journey, how they're similar, how they're different. And, these are just theories, of course. So these are like literary type theories. And I'll just tell you what I think about them after we get into what they are. So let's begin, shall we? So this is the hero's journey. So let's see, can I get on here too? How does it work? There. Okay. So this is the hero's journey, right? There's about 12 steps depending on who you talk to about it. Like there's a couple different models that they have running around. So this is the one that's like Joseph Campbell came up with, and it's like what you would consider like Star Wars is based off of. So it's like the coming of age story that people tend to follow in a lot of, I would say like Western literary culture. And anyways, so you have the beginning is you're in a boring world where you grew up, your hometown, someplace, not much is going on. It's you grew up there, whatever, your friends and family are there, people you've always known, and you don't really realize if there's anything going on outside of it. You don't really care. Everything's fine. And then something happens where you need to go and do something to change your fate, the world, your surroundings, whatever it may be. So you have this call to adventure. And in all the stories, when you first get the call to adventure, you kind of refuse. You're like, why me? I can't do it. That's not something I should be doing. I'm comfortable here. What if I fail? What if I'm not the right person to do it? That's not for me. Like, I didn't grow up to do that type of stuff. Somebody else should handle it. I can't do it. So you have fear, resistance. You don't want to change. It's too hard, too overwhelming. And then this is where like the Yoda character, the mentor, will come in and kind of like guide or support, like the Obi-Wan or something like that will come in and kind of support you through, right? Overcoming the fear. And then you kind of cross the threshold. That is where like you reach the point of no return, where you commit and you can't go back. You have to go forward. And then you have your tests, you have allies, you have enemies, you experiment with new things, like you're learning as you go, right? And then you have to like prepare for like a major change. And then after that, you're going to have what they call like the dark night of the soul, where it's like a very bad thing happens, a death. Like that's where, in the Neverending Story, where Atreyu's horse, Artax, drowns in the mud and he has to deal with that death, right? And then after that, like big change, then you like are kind of like reborn, like you have a new something to propel you forward, right? And then maybe you get like a reward or something like that, or you like maybe like your King Arthur like takes the sword out of the stone, like you've won, you've got something. And then you have to go on the road back, and then you maybe there's last minute danger, last minute trials, just to make the story a little more interesting. And then at the end, you become a master of whatever problem you are trying to solve, and you return. This is like where they say like the healer returns with the elixir, the healer returns with whatever it is for his people to be safe or whatever. Like you return home with something, like you are changed, and therefore now you have wisdom to help other people. And then eventually, then maybe you can become like the Yoda character, and like the cycle will continue with a new hero, right? And this is literary, but we can also find parallels to this type of story in our own lives. So an example could be, actually I have an example of both. I'll get to that later. Let's finish this and I'll tell you about the heroines, and then we'll do a comparison. All right, so this is a hero's journey. There's also another model of it, and it's like Joseph Campbell's model, and there's another guy who's got like the Volger's model, and it's very similar. I would say they're very much interchangeable, but there's slight differences, but you got that. Anyways, so those are. Now let's compare with the heroine. So this is the female version, and it's slightly different in very important ways. So let's compare your male versus your female. Actually, let me go over the female's journey a little bit first and what I dislike about it. Okay, because this is why I'm going to talk about this, because I heard this thing about with Jordan Peterson, and someone was asking him, what's the female version of the hero's journey? What are the women supposed to do? Because the men are supposed to have a call to adventure, like start a business, to go away, from their parents' home, to leave the home, to leave their hometown, to go to the city, to make money, to do the trials and tribulation of like starting a business, failing. Like that's what like your everyday guy is supposed to go through in order to become the hero in his own personal journey. And Jordan Peterson says, for the female, it is finding a strong man, a monster, and taming him to be her protector, right? That's the female fantasy, in my opinion. I don't think that's the female hero's journey. Because, okay, if this is a female, like the Beauty and the Beast, right? Like she's like, whatever, a regular girl. And then she goes and she meets this monster, but he's rich, of course. Like, let's be real. This is a fantasy. She meets this rich monster, and then she turns him into her prince, right? Like this is the fantasy. This is a female fantasy. This is not a hero's journey at all. In my opinion, I think he's dead wrong. And I know like everybody loves Jordan Peterson and, whatever, but I just think he's totally wrong about this, that it's not about finding a monster and taming him to be your prince. That's ridiculous. That is just every female fantasy is a mid woman who, for some reason, in this fantasy, everybody wants, even though she's not the most, physically attractive or anything exceptional about her. It's like, oh, she's just a mid. Like, this is a fantasy. And everybody wants her, but then she's like, no, nobody's good enough. And then she meets a billionaire or like a wealthy guy, and she makes him like her simp or whatever the hell. Like, this is a fantasy. This is not a hero's journey. This is not a heroine's journey. This is ridiculous to even compare the two. That is the same thing as if we would say that the male's hero's journey is the same thing as a male's fantasy, which would be something along the lines of, basically, you got a guy who's ignored, there's nothing good about them, and for no reason, the most attractive woman suddenly wants to be with them over the most attractive, successful, rich male. Like, this is a fantasy. This is like Revenge of the Nerds. This is not a hero's journey for a man. This is nothing. This is just like, you got something you didn't deserve, you didn't earn it, and that's why it's a fantasy. Everybody thinks like getting something you want that you didn't earn is like some sort of a journey. No, it's not. This is not a journey. So if you want to compare a female finding a guy and then her being her personal monster, then you'd have to say that the male hero's journey is not doing anything, not accomplishing anything, and then the most beautiful girl wanting you for no reason. This is a fantasy world. I mean, I'm sorry. So I reject that the female fantasy is also the female hero's journey. I completely reject that. Now, thankfully, someone has come up with the heroine's journey, and I feel like that is more along the lines of what a female hero's journey is. So it's more about like the woman is first attempting to be masculine to be successful, because society, they want to say the patriarchy, but let's just say society or the economy says you got to get a job. So the woman is trying to be masculine, right? To be successful. And then she has to find balance between being a woman and living in this world where she's forced to be masculine. And then she finally, finds someone to help her or whatever. And then she settles into some sort of a balance in this world, right? Now that you have a little bit of backstory, we can go and continue forward and compare them. All right. We're going to have two characters, Mark and Emily, and they're going to go on their hero's journey, and we're going to compare. All right. So Mark, 26, male, working at a comfortable but dead-end office job. Let's say he's doing some clerical work, making minimum wage. He feels restless. He dreams of starting his own business someday. He has no experience and little money to start, right? And then we have Emily, right? She's 26. And because she's a woman and gets a lot of doors open for her, because young, attractive women, it's easier when they're young, right? So her career is rising because, maybe she's hot, right? Let's just say she's mid to hot. So it's a little easier for her in life in the beginning, right? But her personal life is shallow, right? Her relationships are just hookups because she's told that's what you do. She's lonely. She eats takeout. She misses having time to be creative, painting, doing fun stuff like that. She wants a family, even though she's told she can't do that until she's older. She wants a real relationship, love and romance and that stuff. And she wants a balance, like work-life balance. But she feels trapped in the busyness of life, right? Okay. And then we have, and then we have the departure, separation. This is like the ordinary world scene, okay? So Mark, he's clocking in and out of a very boring, repetitive job with no upper mobility. Everyone tells him, just be grateful that you have some stability, but he still feels numb inside. Like there needs to be more. I need more. I'm not getting anywhere. And then you have Emily. She's going on dating apps. She's working very late nights. She's posting her curated fun photos, but inside she's dead. She's hollow inside. Her career is the only anchor she has to any form of success, right? Then you get the call to adventure. Mark, he sees an opportunity. Maybe it's a side hustle, an idea that he has, or a friend suggests starting a small business venture with him. And then he's getting like ideas. This is sparking something in him, right? And Emily, maybe she's invited to a friend's dinner party and she sees couples with children and she's watching them, and it makes her long deeply for connection and family and more free time to do things like host dinner parties. Chicks like that stuff. This is what we're inside of us, is what we always long for. And then you have refusal of the call. Mark is like, no, I can't start the business. I don't know how. I'll probably go broke. Dude has nothing. He's working minimum wage. He's got hardly anything, and he's afraid of growing broke. You're this close to being broke, so who cares? Just risk it all. Like, come on. So he's clinging to his paycheck, his like semblance of security, even though he knows if he clings to that tightly, he will never, ever be successful because it's not enough. He needs to do something more, right? And then you have Emily. She can't slow down to date seriously. She doesn't have the time. She's going to lose her edge in her career. So then she's like, I'm going to stay on the treadmill. of work and these shallow hookups because they just don't have the time to invest in finding a good person, right? And then you have like the supernatural aid comes. This is where the mentor appears. So Mark will find like maybe inspiration through a podcast or an in-person mentor who once built a business from scratch, right? And Emily, she might meet an older woman at work who has both a family and a career, and she kind of becomes like a guide for her. And then you have crossing the threshold. Mark quits or he reduces his hours greatly and he commits to his business idea. He's scared, it's uncertain, but he's going to do it. Emily, she deletes her dating apps. She joins cooking or art classes to connect with her desires to be creative and to have like a more whole-rounded life, whatever. And this is the belly of the whale. So the first weeks Mark has failure after failure, confusion. He's feeling like he's going broke. He's lost. The comfort of his old job is gone. He's having regrets. He's in a lot of turmoil and pain. Then you have Emily sitting in her apartment after work. There's no date. She's stopped the dating apps. She feels emptier than before. She's questioning everything. Why am I lowering my hours? Why am I focusing on something that's more creative? Why am I doing that? I'm so silly. I should just go all in the work, right? And then you have Act 2, initiation, the road of trials, right? Mark, he's learning business basics. He's doing the trial and error. Yes, there's a lot of failure, but he's doing it, right? He's got some side hustles. Maybe he's delivering stuff between working on his business idea. He gets rejected from a lot of potential clients, but he's still trying. He still hasn't given up. Emily, she tries therapy, journaling, experimenting with cooking or painting again. She's not good at it at first, and she's like, this is silly. I should just go back to hustling, whatever. But she's like, you know what? This is doing something for me. Like now she's like, she's in it. And then you have meeting with the goddess or encounter with the wholeness. These are the terminologies that they use. So for Mark, it's he meets someone who believes in him. Maybe a partner. Maybe it's his first real customer or an actually supportive friend, right? Someone that says, you can do this. I think you can do this. Keep going. I support you. And then you have Emily. She meets someone who values her vulnerability, not just the surface success, right? Or she paints and she feels alive for the first time in years. And people are like, wow, that's beautiful. I can't believe you made that. And they're like, she's getting some sort of good feedback finally. No, stop. Gosh. Okay. Then you have the woman as a temptress or distraction, right? So like this is just a term for like something comes to kind of like take you away. So for Mark, he's tempted to quit and return to his safe paycheck because money's getting tight. Something is happening and he needs money for something. So maybe he gets like sick. Maybe he needs to get a surgery and he doesn't have health insurance. And he's like, maybe I should just give up and go back and get the surgery. Or just push on for a few more months and then get surgery after. It's not like a life or death thing. So he's like in that point, like, do I just give up or go back so I can get this? Or, something happens. Emily, tempted to go back to casual hookups or overworking because it feels easier than emotional depth. So she is like, I like doing all these other things. This is more me, but I feel pressure from society, from my female friends. Like, why aren't I hustling anymore? You have that and you're tempted to go back. Or maybe she sees someone who has like a really amazing promotion and she's like, oh, you could have gotten this promotion, Emily, but I did. Good for you and your paintings. Ha ha ha. Something like that happens. And then you have the dark night of the soul, right? So Mark, his business nearly collapses. He maxes out his credit cards. He feels like he's a fool. He's terrified. He made a life-ruining mistake. He's breaking down. But then his despair, it breeds clarity and courage and like, you know what? I've come this far. I can push through this. If this is the worst, I could do this. I could keep going. And then you have Emily after another hollow hookup or a weekend of exhaustion, being alone. She bursts into tears, realizing how profoundly lonely she really is. She fears she'll never have love or fulfillment. And in the raw collapse, she sees the truth she's been avoiding. That she doesn't feel success from working and grinding all day and trying to be a dude. She wants a family. She wants a softer life. She wants not the corporate life, not the city life. And then you have atonement with the father or confronting authority, right? So Mark faces external authority, maybe like a dismissive family member, maybe his dad or his uncle is like, be realistic, son. Or an investor who's like, I can't invest. This doesn't look like a good idea. Whatever it is, he has to confront his fear of not being enough. And every man has to do that at some point. Then you have Emily. She confronts internalized authority or her belief that her self-worth equals productivity, right? Like a man, right? And then she realizes that she's living by societal expectations, but not her own, not what she really wants. And then you have like the illumination. And this is where Mark has a breakthrough moment. His business model finally clicks. He finds the courage to keep going despite uncertainty. Because, you know, when you have your own business, you have no certainty. There's no like backup. There's no like, if you fail because of you. And then Emily, her breakthrough moment is realizing that her longing for a family, creativity, balance is valid, sacred, and not weakness. She is not weak because she doesn't want to be a corporate CEO, right? And then you have the ultimate boon. Mark, finally, he lands his first real clients. Small, but significant. He gains proof that he can create, that he can make this happen for himself. Emily reconnects with authenticity. She starts cooking real meals, dating guys with the intention for marriage only. And that means you have to, whenever you see some guy who just wants a casual hookup, you got to say, sorry, no, thank you. Right? So that means you're going to be alone a lot because now you have boundaries. And she's painting again, and wholeness begins to return to her, right? And then you have the return. Okay, or the refusal of the return. Mark is tempted to stay in hustle mode, chasing only money, forgetting why he started. He started to become someone, right? Not just to make money, to become the man he wants to be. And that means to be a provider, to have a family, to have a legacy, right? Then you have Emily. She's tempted to backslide, fearing she'll lose her career momentum if she slows down. It's too long. She still hasn't found a partner. It's been a long time, right? But she's feeling a little bit of fear, right? Then you have the escape. Mark finally leaves behind toxic comparison to other entrepreneurs and focuses on his unique path. Emily walks away from toxic dating culture or jobs that demand all of her life force, right? Back in the day when women wanted to have a family, they would choose jobs that let them go home early, more flexibility so they can be with their kids when they were sick, right? Not this corporate CEO stuff where your business collapses if you're not there. All right. And then you have rescue from without. Help comes. For Mark, a mentor, maybe a good partner, a supportive community steps in to help keep his business going during maybe some burnout. Maybe like he has a really good client and he's like, I'm going to refer you to people. You're awesome. I'm going to refer you to tons of people. I'm going to show you my social network, right? Then you have Emily, a close friend or maybe a therapist, validates her longing for wholeness and gives her the courage to finally follow through, not look back, right? And then crossing of the return threshold. Mark visits old coworkers, realizing he's transformed. He's not the same person. He's no longer the restless employee that he used to be. He's a different person. He's become the man now. Emily goes to a work event from her old job and realizes she's no longer hides her true desires. She's integrating all the parts for herself. When they're bragging about their promotions, she's bragging about her art. She's bragging about how she wants to have a family, right? Very different. And then you have the master of two worlds, or the freedom to live, right? So Mark balances financial stability with self-created purpose, and he lives with more freedom and resilience. And then Emily, she balances career ambition with love, creativity, and community. So she's got more time for what matters. She's not all in on her career and nothing else. She doesn't split between career woman and homemaker. She is whole. She knows what she wants, and she wants more of the creativity in the family. And contrast in real modern life. So Mark's hero's journey is the external battle. Will he risk security and conquer uncertainty to prove himself in the real world? His transformation is about courage, resilience, and mastery. Emily's heroine's journey is an internal battle. Will she reclaim her lost self and integrate her need for love, creativity, and balance? Her transformation is about healing, authenticity, and wholeness, right? So that is, where am I? I'm still a circle. Okay. So anyways, that is the difference between the female and the male hero's journey. I think that's way, look, I know you guys are like, she did not hit the wall. She figured it out before she hit the wall, okay? She was 27. Right there at the end. Anyways. No, in this story, she wanted them. You guys. Yes. This is true. But it used to be, men used to get degrees before, because the problem is a lot of guys, their career path, like the degrees, have been infiltrated by women. And that whenever women get into whatever degree you want to do, it dramatically drops how much money you can make in that field, because you've doubled the amount of applicants for those jobs. So what you guys got to do is you have to go to college. Unfortunately, you have to go to college, but you have to find degrees where women are not interested at all, where they cannot physically or mentally handle the stress, because men are like super compatible with high stress, high work type of jobs. They thrive off of that shit. They love it. So I think, I'm just saying, you guys have to start going back to college, and you need to take back your degrees, and you need to figure out something that women cannot and will not do and go strong. Yes. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so I will see you guys all next time. That's all I have for you today. We have done the hero and the heroine's journey. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree with me that it is not the fantasy of the mid to find a rich dude for no reason. That is a female hero's journey, and that Jordan Peterson is wrong about that. And I know Jordan Peterson is not doing very well right now, but we have to, like, when someone who has a lot of attention and authority says something wrong, we need to call it out, because no, that is not the heroine's journey. The heroine is not all about some mid's fantasy. it's about this. It's about all of this that I just went over today. So yeah, we all start off as nothing. We're like whatever society told us to be, whatever we feel comfortable. And then we have to find ourselves, and then we become the people that can help the next generation to also become the people they need to be. So, yes. There's gotta be something you guys need to look into. Maybe I'll look into that. Like, what are the most difficult jobs that females cannot do? I'll look into that and try to find some good ones for you guys. All right, so that is all for tonight. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night. My mom is in town. I'm going to be hanging out with her. Damon's not feeling well, so we're going to end a little bit early, but thank you all for hanging out, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and I will be back next time. So, bye.
The old gods whisper with tongues of sin. They crawl through culture to pull you in. Don't be for sale, don't wear their grin. The old are rotten, don't let them win. Eyes and heads and mirrored glass. They promised youth, they cursed your past. You drank the light with ruby lips, but every toe